make yourselves comfortable. We're so glad you could all be here. Thank you guys for coming. My name's Marissa. I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns. And we have 3 organizations here to chat with us. We have 4 guests, which is the most guests that we've ever had at this point, right?
Yeah, so we're going to pray that everybody doesn't trip over these cords, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed. But if you do, it's fine because we're all friends here, so it's all good. So yeah, we're going to get started and bring some of our friends up. So we're going to get started today. We've got Mark and Maggie from SOS and Folded, if you guys want to come up and join us. Woo!
So I don't remember if we mentioned the theme for today, but it's going to be about feeding the community, which seems very timely, both as we go into the holiday season, but also with things going on in the world right now. So we are so grateful to have Mark and Maggie here.
Thank you guys so much for being with us. So can we start off, Maggie, I'm going to kick off with you. Can you give us a little intro about you and what you do at SOS Recovery? And then Mark, we're going to kick it over to you to talk a little bit about, just give us a quick intro on yourself and Folded.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here. This is my first podcast, so bear with me.
We love that.
My name's Maggie Weaver. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of SOS Recovery. We're a recovery community organization with locations in Rochester, Dover, and Exeter, New Hampshire, as well as a mobile outreach program. I've been serving people experiencing homelessness in the community for the last 10 years in the Dover, Strafford County area. It's my big passion, and we have got to do some really cool projects over the last few years and exciting stuff to talk about. But we really focus on meeting our folks in our community where they're at and meeting their needs and doing the best that we can. And part of that was our expansion into the restaurant industry with the creation of Folded Community Diner in Somersworth. And I don't think there's anyone better to talk about Folded than Mark, our head chef.
Nice.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, my name's Mark. I'm the head chef, Folded Community Diner. We're a nonprofit restaurant. I believe the only nonprofit restaurant in the state of New Hampshire. So our mission is to provide a recovery-friendly workplace that also deals with people coming out of incarceration or have had issues with law enforcement. And again, as we were saying, it's about meeting people where they are, addressing their current needs, and providing a support platform for them.
So Mark, you have led kitchens coast to coast. What brought you into the community-centered work?
Combination of things, really. So our community in general has been really strong. It's a really, really tight-knit community. Our local chefs around here and restaurant owners as well have always been very plugged into what's been happening here on the ground. We started doing stuff, remember back in the day when Hurricane Katrina hit, made a couple of phone calls. Hey, we should do something. I don't know what, but one phone call led to another phone call to another phone call. And in no time, we were able to put together an event at the Wentworth by the Sea Hotel that by the end of the day, with a charity auction and the dinner, raised like $100,000 to be able to send down to New Orleans. So, I mean, that's just the strength of our community that's always been here. So I came out, I'd worked a little bit with Share Our Strength organization, the childhood hunger and nutrition organization out in LA. There was already a chapter going on back here, so got involved with them as well. A lot of people are probably familiar with the Taste of Nation event that goes on in Portsmouth. Yeah, that's the other SOS, as it were. But, so, yeah, the idea of getting plugged in, working together as a community, I think was here long before I got here, basically. Yeah.
I love that. In our initial conversation, I learned a lot about sort of what you were just talking about with how much connective tissue exists in this culinary community already in New Hampshire in the Seacoast area. And it seems like it's very special. Can you talk a little bit about what that kind of meant to you to be part of that? And how does that connect to some of the work that you're doing today at Folded?
Well, I mean, being a chef, at the end of the day, we're cooks. We feed people, right? especially coming from, I think, like a fine dining background where things can get a little lofty, a little removed. For me, it was important to remind myself of what food really is at its core. It's nourishment. It's about people being able to share a table with one another, share their stories, share their time together. And the food is really just that vessel, as it were, part of the backdrop to people connecting with one another. But there was, speaking of connections, there was definitely a disconnect in serving foie gras and and all this stuff. While literally, kids in our country were going hungry, all the time. When I was working with Share Our Strength, the stats would go back and forth depending upon the year. 1 in 4, 1 in 5 children in America are food insecure. In a country with our resources, those numbers just seem crazy. So, the more I got to work with them, the more it resonated. And again, it's just the strength of our community. Working with our local chefs led to starting our local chefs collaborative chapter. That then brought on the barn heirloom harvest dinners, the Pharmacue, which,
anyone who was here last time, we talked about the Pharmacue with Auspicious.
So yeah, there is this very circular nature to our community right now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maggie, can you talk a little bit about Folded and the model and how that ties into the work that you guys are doing at SOS Recovery for those who aren't familiar with what we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So Folded was kind of like a pipe dream project concept that our executive director, John, has had for a long time, because what we understand is that for people who are kind of rebuilding, whether it's recovery or coming out of incarceration or getting back on their feet after experiencing homelessness, there are limited avenues for people and for some of the jobs that they can access and some of the skills that they've built. And so hospitality, kitchen work is, a really common one that we see. But there also are environments in those spaces that are not conducive for recovery. And so we kind of had this concept of how can we blend a space that provides people skill development while also supporting their needs in recovery. A lot of what we end up doing with some of our staff is some case management stuff. We're all real people going through things. So it ties in. It was born out of ARPA funds, which was the American Rescue Funds through the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative. So that's how we became a nonprofit with the big goal of supporting our folks as they're making these transitions, which is really what the mission of SOS is we're supporting people through all walks of their life, whether it's somebody that is experiencing homelessness, that is struggling to get their basic needs met, all the way up to the individual who is celebrating 10 years in recovery and is, looking to develop themselves skill-wise. So the concept is that we can have those two things tie in together. We can provide community meals, we can provide workforce development, we can provide staff support, and have this really whole spectrum of care between the two agencies. So somebody who comes in recently out of jail looking to rebuild, we can offer them support, transition, and skill building, and really get them going and see them through.
It's so incredible. Thank you for the work you do.
Mark, I would love you. So for those who don't know, you have a lot of, you are a very highly regarded chef. You've worked in some incredible kitchens. It's very interesting that you made this career move. And I would love to hear more. Maggie talked a little bit about the work and how you're supporting the staff. Without going into any details, obviously, and respecting privacy, I would love to hear a little bit about what that experience has been like for you, shifting into this type of a kitchen management role, sort of in contrast to some of the other work that you've done in the past.
Yeah, thanks. In a lot of ways, it is a little bit seamless. Kitchens, the hospitality industry has been one of those industries where we would have a lot of individuals who were dealing with substance issues, various other issues. It was the kind of place where you could go and get a job still, right? One of the few havens there. So dealing with individuals in that regard was always part of the territory. But you really didn't have the opportunity to invest yourself in those individuals it's a fast-paced restaurant. We're there to make money, da 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 da. And for a lot of different reasons, you weren't able to really dig deep with an individual and really involve yourself with their lives. And this provides the opportunity to do that in a real way. It's, the idea is to really, as we keep saying, meet someone where they're at, right? And in a lot of other restaurant settings, there's really just not that latitude to be able to do that in the same degree. And the fact that it's part of our mission here is, it's so important to me to be able to do it. I've been cooking long enough. It's so not about me. I'm so bored with my own self. It's ridiculous. So,
I just think there's something so incredible about your story of really just being at the top of your field and saying, really, you could do a lot of things and saying, I want to invest my here. I think that's really powerful. Maggie, I would love to talk a little bit about the Pay It Forward program. If you could share a little bit about how you guys are responding to some of that food insecurity in your local community.
Yeah, I think we're all aware of what our community members here locally and nationwide are experiencing right now around food insecurity. And so, we looked at what we were able to do within our, restaurant and came up with the Pay It Forward program, which is anybody can come in and purchase a meal and, say they want to put it towards the Pay It Forward program. You get a ticket, it gets tacked up on the board, and anybody can come in, no questions asked, take that ticket and receive a free meal. And that really ties back into our practices at SOS, is we are trying to give people access to the things that they need without shame, without stigma. They don't need to come in and say, I'm homeless and here is how I can prove it and this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter who you are, you can come in and get food. And that's the one thing that ties us all together, right? It's food. We can come in, you can eat, you can sit down, there's no judgment. And that's a really, really wonderful privilege that we have. And I was talking to Mark earlier, and it's really ramping up and people accessing it, which is incredible.
No, it definitely is. It's definitely been picking up. Yeah. And it's wonderful to see the difference that just a good, hot, well-served meal can make in someone's day. When a lot of things can be going on in their lives, just that one simple act there. We put the board in a very discreet location because discretion is definitely a big part of reducing stigma, right? I know individuals that run food pantries can speak to that at great length, right? Nobody wants to run into their neighbor, all of those kinds of things, right? So we intentionally make sure it's in a spot where, as Maggie said, somebody can come up, simply grab a ticket, they sit down at a table like any other guest. Hi, how can I help you? The ticket goes down on the table. Our servers know exactly what's going on. And then they get the same guest experience that every single guest gets, as they should. Simple.
Yeah, people absolutely deserve that. And I love the way that you're approaching that with dignity. And people absolutely deserve to eat. And I don't know why anybody is questioning that. Can you donate to the Pay It Forward program online? Do you have to go in person and fill it out?
At the moment, it's in person, but
Okay.
we're working on being
Perfect.
able to make that available online too. Yeah.
Amazing.
So in terms of future dream state for you guys, what is an ideal universe look like, right? Does in the dream ideal worlds that I live in my head, what does that look like with your all's involvement, and what do you hope comes next?
We have more foldeds in this state as diners than we do for-profit restaurants. Karen.
Yeah, I don't think I can answer much better than that, but my goal across the board in my work that we do here is just to give our folks access to services and support, and the same things that you and I have that we take for granted that you don't even think about. Walking into a restaurant, sitting down, enjoying a hot meal is something that most of us do several times a month without even thinking about it. But, for some of our people that we see daily, it's something that they've been an experience that they've had denied. So in my ideal world, anybody can walk in anywhere and be treated with dignity and respect and get access to food without having it be a big production where they get posted on Instagram of like, look who we helped today. It's about the person and their need, not the performance of it, I think.
Well said. Perfect. Yeah.
I love that. And I think the consideration and the dignity piece is so huge. And so my last question for you guys is just for those of us who aren't as ingrained in this space as you all are, what is one piece of advice for us or one thing you want us to take away from this in regards to like, how do we, feed people with dignity? How do we take care of our neighbors with dignity? Or even just how do we support the work that you all are doing?
Yeah, my answer for this question, whenever it comes across in various forums, is if you want to learn or identify what somebody needs who's struggling, is to go out and talk to those people that are struggling. You can go online and Google and see like, what can I donate? But people, I don't know what it's like to experience tenting in Stratford County. So I talk to somebody who does to see what they need. So it's really about giving people with lived experiences chances to sit at the table and actually be involved in these processes. So talk to your neighbors, even if they're not folks that you maybe would go out of your way to talk to normally. They're part of our community. Chat with them and access, see what they need and go from there, I think is my recommendation.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful recommendation. And it doesn't need to be anything large. It could be something very small and very simple. Buying someone a meal that you see on the street that obviously needs one. Anything. Providing a couple of hours at Gather or Footprints or one of the other local wonderful food pantries that we have going on around here. Donating, whatever it is you can do, I guess, and the idea is like, don't think that if it's too small, it won't make a difference. Yes, it will.
Thank you guys so much. Last spontaneous question is, what's the best thing on the menu? What do we have to order on the menu when we come to Folded?
Oh, I happen to be a big burger fan, so
Bring a burger?
Yeah, we do a pretty killer smash burger actually.
Oh, I love a good smash burger. Awesome.
But our signature is a Barnyard, like a breakfast burger, bacon, hash browns, fried egg, double patty. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Great chicken curry salad too. Yeah, love that.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
Chicken curry salad.
Yep, that's my fave. Yep.
All right, now I'm hungry. Thank you guys so much for
Thank you for
coming.
having
We
me.
appreciate it so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So if you have seen our social media at all lately, you have seen us share these gorgeous lists of local pantries and community dinners that are posted by Cultivate New Hampshire. So we'd love to have Marie from Cultivate come up here and chat with us.
Woo! We've got another, this is another first podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Woo! Make them feel comfortable.
We are honored that you were sharing your first podcast with us.
I'm honored to share it with you.
So we got to chat a little bit last week, and hearing your story was so incredible. I would love for you to share a little bit more about your background and kind of like going into how Cultivate New Hampshire started.
Totally. So hi, I'm Marie. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of New Hampshire, where I am studying education. And I'm also one of the co-founders of Cultivate New Hampshire. We are a small nonprofit, but you may know our events that we plan. We plan Pharmacu, which was just referenced. Thank you. And that happens in June at Tuckaway Farm in Lee, New Hampshire. And we also plan the New England BIPOC Festival. And that happens in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, in August. And this year on the hottest day in August ever recorded.
But it was beautiful. My 3-year-old and I hung for a while. It was still, you guys did a great job with that event. You throw a mean event in a nice way.
We appreciate the people who hung because it was a sweaty day for everyone.
It was super kid friendly too, though. For anybody who hasn't been to that, we'll definitely talk a little bit more about it. But just, I've got to start it off with, you have to go.
Awesome event.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your background studying food?
Yeah, so I was a teacher for many years, and as a teacher, I did a lot of work with building sustainability programs at the schools I worked at. And no surprise, a huge part of that was focused on the school lunch. How are we sourcing our food? How are we wasting our food? How are we getting rid of our food? So when I started my PhD program, a lot of my research was interested in farm-to-school programming. And that's how I got connected with David Vargas, one of the other co-founders of Cultivate. You may know him as the chef owner at Vita Cantina in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. But he actually is now the nutrition director at MSAD 60, which is a school district in Berwick. So lots of educators in our group. And so we got connected. The restaurant I worked at, the head chef there knew Dave. I told him about my research. He connected me with Dave. They invited me to help them serve lunch at Shapley Elementary School in Kittery. And then they just kept inviting me to things like that, and I kept going. And then that was like early 2020, so I think you all know what happened next in this story, which is that every school in the country closed for several months. So that put a little pause on it. And then as things were reopening, the following like late winter, spring of 2021, Dave reached back out and said, hey, I know you're really interested in this farm to school stuff. I'd like to invite you to this meeting for the Heritage Harvest Project, which is one of the organizations that Cultivate has now kind of absorbed. I don't know if that's the right word. And I went to the meeting, and they talked a lot about wanting to revamp Pharmacue, which is an incredible event. And then they asked if I wanted to help plan it. And obviously I said, fuck yeah. Can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
We encourage it.
First one of the night. Good. We're off to a good start.
Obviously, I said fuck yes. And yeah, helped with planning Pharmacue that year and cried about 100 times because it's just such an incredibly beautiful community event. Helped them with the kids' tent, helped with a lot of logistics. And that's kind of how I got connected with Dave and Evan Mallett, who's one of the other HHP people.
Yeah. And so you got together with this incredible group, and then you started sort of thinking about this new organization, Cultivate. Can you tell us a little bit about, what that was like getting together with all of these power players? You are a massive power player. And I feel like everybody that we hear about that does Pharmacue is just so inspirational and incredible. But so can you tell us a little bit about what you started thinking about when you all got together and how this sort of arose?
Totally. So Dave, Evan, and I all worked together on Pharmacue that year. And then a week later, I got a phone call from Dave, and he said, hey, I'm talking with Joanna Kelly. If you don't know her, Assistant Mayor of Portsmouth, owner of Cup of Joe. I've been talking with Joanna and Evan, and we're wondering if you want to help us plan the second BIPOC festival this summer because we need help. And obviously I said, yes.
Fuck yes.
Fuck yes. And so we got together, and the four of us, and of course, a lot of other people helped. We organized that year's BIPOC festival, and we got together about a month after, and we were just kind of, rehashing post-mortem. And as we talked, we started to notice all these connections between Pharmacue and BIPOC Festival. Mm-hmm. And we were like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we treating these events as separate entities when really all of this work is super connected and we should be doing this for real? Maybe we should start a nonprofit. And so we did.
That's so cool.
And we had no idea what we were doing when we started. Anyone else in here involved in the nonprofit world may know there's a lot of logistics that come with that those early years. But we've, figured it out. We have a great team. One of our other board members is here, Ken, sitting back over there in the corner. And that's out of that arose Cultivate. And
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission of Cultivate?
Yeah. So Cultivate, as I said, it rose out of these two events. So we're all about planning community events that are focused on food, culture, and community. So the food part's probably a little easier to identify. It's the food you're eating. And then both events are really focused on culture and trying to educate ourselves and our community on the different kind of histories and cultures that go into the food ways of New Hampshire, New England, Where did we start? How did we get here? What are the different bodies of knowledge that are driving our food systems in this area? And then community is a huge part. So it's all about celebration. Joy was our theme this year. And if you went to either of our events, you know there was plenty of joy to be had. And we really just want to help bring our community together around food and to eat and learn from each other.
I mean, you are absolutely doing that. I've been to 2 of the BIPOC Fests, and it is like the most magical event that I have been to. It feels like the way you want the world to be. Everyone truly is just so joyful, and the food is outrageous if you have not been. And I've seen Reds there, and there's just so many incredible people. How do you feel? This is now the third year?
This was our 5th annual BIPOC
Oh my
Fest.
gosh. So can you tell us a little bit about like what this year looked like and what you want for the future of this event?
Yeah, so the first BIPOC Fest happened in the parking lot at Vania Cantina. There were a couple hundred people. We have now moved to Strawberry Bank Museum in Portsmouth because we outgrew our little parking lot. We had about 5,000 people attend this year, and we had over 35 restaurants and almost 50 community organizations that came and attended, including Gather, Red's Good Vibes. You guys are food and community org. All.
We'll get to them soon. Just wait. They're next.
And yeah, it's been incredible, the growth. We're really grateful to all of our sponsors. Service Credit Union has been sponsoring the event since day one. And that allows us to welcome everyone to the event. It's a free event. So the food is free, entrance is free. We do accept donations at the door, and we're always overwhelmed by the generosity of people donating at the door. But it's really important to us to keep the event free so that anyone can come and dance, eat, have a good time, be with the community, and not have to worry about that financial barrier that so many people have to worry about when it comes to stuff like that.
Everyone is so grateful that you make that free. It does not feel like something that would be free in any other or in the rest of the world. So thank you for that work. Lately, you and I were talking about how you've been focusing on sharing resources and your incredibly beautiful social media page with the most beautiful lists of resources. I told her, like, oh my gosh, who is doing all of that? She was like, me. Can you tell us a little bit about what you want to do with that and also how people can contribute?
Yeah, so similar to our events, I run all the social media for Cultivate, and we treat our social media like the events. So it's all about bringing resources together in one place so that they're easy to find. Time is a resource, and researching is a lot of, I'm a PhD student. Researching is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. So our social media I treat it like a virtual BIPOC festival or pharmacy. So we recently shared out a resource on food access resources we focus local. So York County, Maine, Rockingham and Stratford County in New Hampshire, so sticking to the Seacoast area, where to find free meals, where to go to donate food, where to go to find groceries, and we tried to kind of loop in transportation opportunities as well. And I worked on that resource with Kate from Gather, Kate Constantine, who is sitting right over there. But generally, I treat that space as a resource share. So we put together posts that share resources on food access, but we've also done how to talk to your family about difficult topics. And we'll have a healthcare, free and affordable healthcare resource coming out soon. Thank you. And yeah, we just hope to keep sharing events and spaces where people can go and find community and culture and food, and take care of themselves. And care is kind of at the core of all of that. So
I just wanted to chime in on one thing and then I'll let you bring it home. But I think that the work that you're doing specifically around making this information accessible and shareable is really important, because I don't think some people might not hear that and understand how important it is. But like, if you just put that information out there, nobody might ever see it. But the fact that you take the time to make it something that like is visually engaging too makes it so that it has virality and can go much further and get the information out there. So like there's real work that goes into that. So like that's really important and a good kind of reminder for all of us is like, let's collect this information and amplify it, but also trying to do it in a way that like does catch on in the algorithms, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. So appreciate your thoughtfulness around that too.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit about how the way that you are presenting information is similar to what we aspire to do, which is just make it really easy for somebody to take that bite-sized piece. So thank you so much for that. And for anybody who wants to get involved, how can they support Cultivate New Hampshire's mission?
Well, if you want to volunteer at one of our events, Ken over there in the corner is our volunteer coordinator. So you can go heckle him or come ask me for some information and we can get you hooked up. And I would say that's how you can support Cultivate. How you can support food access too is I would highly recommend becoming like a monthly or a regular donor to an organization like Gather or Mainspring in Kittery, Maine. Overwhelmingly, consistent donations is what they're looking for, so they have predictability in the finances that are coming in. So it's absolutely great to give a one-time donation, but if you can be a regular donor, do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank Round of applause for Marie. Thank you.
Guys, can you believe this is some of these people's first podcast? Are you kidding me? Like, that was like so easy.
Amazing.
No problem. All right, next up, we do have a podcast pro up. We've got Caitlin from Red's Good Vibes. Give her a round of applause.
I don't think I need to be here.
I know, right? Everyone else has already pitched you.
And we're done. No shame, no stigma, free food. Let's do.
Exactly. We're hitting home on the themes today. We're all about a theme.
Well,
so
these
give
are our
us,
people. So.
Exactly. Give us a quick intro, Caitlin. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got started on this Red's Good Vibe journey.
So my name is Caitlin. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Red's Good Vibes, which sounds like really fancy, but it's not that fancy. We started Red's actually in honor of my brother, Red, who passed away like 8 years ago. It was always his dream to have a free meal food truck. And when he passed, we just said, fuck it. Which, thank you for swearing first. I appreciate you.
Open the
That's
floodgates,
usually
baby.
me. And we did it. And so we built this nonprofit, my siblings and I, and now we have free meal food trucks. We drive those around everywhere, so you serve free food, no questions asked. And we support a network of community fridges.
Yeah.
That is massive. And the community fridge model is so incredible. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, this has nothing to do with us, right? We're not like new. This concept is not new to us. I think it's everywhere, right? And so Dave Vargas, who's been mentioned a couple of times, celebrity chef Dave Vargas, he actually brought the concept of a community fridge to our area. So him and Whitney started a community fridge in Kittery, Maine. And so essentially what it is, it's a fridge that's outside. It's accessible to anyone 24/7. You can donate to the fridge as a community member or a restaurant or a business, and you can also take. So it is a take what you need, leave what you can concept.
And so that's very similar, obviously, to the Red's Good Vibes concept as well. Can you talk a little bit about the truck and what somebody's experience might be coming up for the first time, and how that kind of, does that catch people off guard? Talk a little bit about the truck
for
itself.
sure. I mean, you'll hear me yelling at you, it's free, get over here, have a cheeseburger. But it's a regular food truck experience, right? We want to be able to provide all of that. And I think it focuses on dignity, which we've said a lot here tonight already. There's a choiced menu. So there's 4 options on the menu. One is always vegan or vegetarian. We really want to provide that like preference and choice driven model. And I think that like the no shame, no stigma, we don't ask any questions. There's also no limits. But when you come up, it's a regular food truck, right? So we're playing music, we're crazy, we're actually cooking in there. Yeah, we're putting out some great food.
Can you talk a little bit more about that idea of choice and that idea of we have talked about the thread a little bit, but I think you have a really interesting perspective on it, and your experience working in this truck for several years now. You've had a lot of people who've come up to you, and you've seen a lot of folks who are experiencing this in different ways. Can you talk a little bit about why that piece of the mission is really important for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes from our personal experience, right? That initial like spark started because we had volunteered at a soup kitchen, and we were serving food, and my brother Red said, this just feels awful. And I was like, no, why does it feel awful? This is so great. We're doing so many good things today. And he was like, no, imagine how they feel. Imagine how the person that you're serving feels when you're sitting there getting this emotional buzz, right, from giving back to them. And it's that like have and have not thing. And so that's when we started to feel the ick of this like nonprofit kind of like charity space. And we didn't realize that was actually going to become a thing until we started Red's Good Vibes. And I think we strip services of like choice and dignity and preference and respect, right? And I think we talked a lot about today too, asking people what they need, right? Just because I have it doesn't mean I should tell you what you need, right? I'm giving it to you. That doesn't mean I get to make the choice for you, right? We all have decision making where, we can do it ourselves. I can't define your need. And I think that that's a big theme on our food trucks too. So we provide good food. It's free. We provide choice. If you want it without onions, you don't get onions. We call it no-o, which is really funny. But I think that it's important to respect people where they're at.
Yeah, it's I think it's a really important point, and I've learned a lot about this topic over the last few months as people have been having these conversations. I'm coming from outside the space, and I think it's really important because so many people, I think, come in maybe with good intentions and then realize the fact that your brother said that, I think that's really important, and it's important for everyone to hear that is there is this ick factor of, are you doing this for yourself, or are you to feel good and get that good feeling, or are you trying to be helpful and you trying to actually make change?
Yeah.
And so, can you talk again, respecting sort of the dignity and privacy of people that are able to take advantage of this? Yeah. What kind of feedback do you get from people, and how, talk a little bit about that side of things?
I mean, I think that at first, right, when you come up to our food truck, everybody what's the catch? Right. And so the first couple of times that we see people, we see a lot of consistent people, right? They keep coming back because we're at a good time. But when they first come, they really don't trust that it's actually free without strings. And so one of the most amazing moments, right, is when you watch someone that has grown to trust us, right? They trust us to provide them with this dignified service, right, without it actually feeling like a service. And to see that and to connect with the people is this amazing third space, right, where we're all dining together at this food truck, and you're not leading with your circumstance, right? You just get to be human. And it makes me emotional every single time when we really start to connect with people and we see that click kind of happen where they just trust us. And we've created that for them, right? Because we're doing what we say. It's as simple as that.
And you guys show up, refresh my memory, you show up to sort of specific locations as well, on a regular cadence. So you have a lot of times the same groups of people who are able to rely on you over time as well, right?
Yeah, and I think that now there's a shift, right? Now that we're growing as an organization, I think that we're not going to solve hunger with our food truck. It's just not going to happen. We're also not setting out to do that, right? We're not trying to do that. What we do now a lot of times is work with like other consistent services like Gather and and all these organizations, and try to highlight their consistent services. So maybe we'll give a respite for a soup kitchen. We'll come every Wednesday, and then they can know that that Wednesday is covered by Reds, and we're kind of providing that respite. But also having the people that trust us, we can say, we trust this consistent service, right? So we're kind of putting our stamp of approval on something that is more consistent. We're supplemental, right? Mm-hmm. And to have consistency in services is really important.
The way that you are able to sort of act as this connectivity through this ecosystem of folks who are all working, like you said, no one of us is going to be able to solve this problem independently, right? But the way that you're able to kind of thread that needle, I think is huge. And I want to talk about some of the work that you're focused on right now around circling back to these community fridges. And I think a lot of us have probably seen on social media, like, you've been busy. There have been a handful of community fridges that have popped up in the last several months alone. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that project and how that got started and where you're at now.
Yeah, so as I said, Dave and Whitney started the Seacoast Fridge in Kittery. And so Whitney, I think it was like 4 years ago now, maybe even 5, she called us and said, hey, I have this community fridge in Kittery, and I would really love for you guys to be involved. Can you donate consistently your meals, or can you bring the truck out to highlight what we're doing? And I said, yes, absolutely. I love this. This is amazing. I had heard of a community fridge, but never really educated myself on it. So I dove deep into the research hole. And it was like right up our alley. And so we supported Whitney and Dave for a while, and then they lost their general liability insurance. So sometimes a host location will want that. And she was telling me about it, and I was like, well, we'll do it. And she's like, no, you don't have to. And I'm like, no, we'll do it. Like, I don't care. And she's like, it's a risk. And that's what, if we have this 501c3 now, we were just normal people in a garage, giving food away. We really want to be able to like spread this and be able to like uplift people. And so we did that, and that started the wheels turning. And then we had a Chronicle piece of all things. And the executive producer is a woman named Mary Page Provost, who is the fridge manager in Exeter. And she said, I want to start a food truck. And I said, don't fucking do that. It is. I said, it's terrible. I said, I will help you do it, but it is awful. It's so hard. I said, but there's this fridge thing, and it's so cool. And a year later, that was the Exeter Fridge. And so what we do is essentially we kick down the door, right? So we provide the funding for the fridge. We provide the funding for the structure that is around it, which holds like non-perishables and personal hygiene products. We talk with locations, we sign the MOU with the location, and we hold liability insurance. And then we provide them with resources for volunteer management and things like that. But then we back away, right? So these fridges are not ours. We do not own them. We do not claim to own them. I love when we are not mentioned in the publications about the fridges. They are completely a mutual aid project that is run by the community for the community. And it's our way of being able to like bridge that gap with this big bag public charity, bridging the gap to mutual aid.
I was so interested when you were talking about this, because there are so many people, I feel like, that are very activated right now, and people want to help and are looking for opportunities. But oftentimes then, like a lot of folks here talking about starting a nonprofit or getting started in this space, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of barriers that get thrown up. And so the fact that you guys are able to come in and just wipe out a lot of those barriers, I think is really significant. And so how many community fridges are you working with right now?
So we have 5 currently. So Portsmouth, Exeter, Kittery, Berlin, and Newmarket. And we have one coming here to Dover. We're in Hampton, Keene, Barrington. Actually, Dave Vargas is putting one in the school system. Just got delivered yesterday. And a few more. So we hope to have 20 by the end of 2026. And I think that we will surpass that goal for sure. The amount of funding and interest from communities that has come in recently is crazy.
That's so cool. Yeah. And so you really like get it started with them, and then you sort of turn it over to who's sort of talk a little bit about kind of the day to day. Then what happens after you leave?
So I think it's probably good for us to mention too that we don't go into a community and tell them that they need a fridge, right? So I'm not going to say, hey, Dover, I don't live here, but you really need a community fridge. I don't know anything about your community here at the level that this needs to, like the support that needs to happen. So a community will come to us and say, I really want to start a fridge. And it could just be you calling me and saying, yo, what do I have to do? And then we get the group together. And so we try to get a good group of volunteers. At least 10 is a good number to kind of really start with. But each fridge has 2 fridge managers. And so they do, if they decide to have a social media page, they will do that. They manage the volunteers. The fridges are checked twice a day. So they're cleaned and checked for expired goods and things that shouldn't be in there. And so they operate that. And then also they reach out to restaurants and businesses and work within their community to be able to support this fridge.
I just think it's such an interesting model. And, now obviously Seacoast Fridge has been running for, what did you say, 5?
It's like, I think it's 6 years. Yeah.
And it's just volunteer run. And these people are kind of managing, keeping everything up to date. And it's,
And I mean, it's honestly the community. So it starts with those few volunteers, and that's where like the idea kind of like starts to grow. But once the fridge is up and running, the community runs it. I mean, you putting 2 meals in the fridge because you had leftovers is supporting that fridge. And that's really what keeps it going.
Yeah, that is really incredible. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of how you guys make this work at Red's Good Vibes, like from the truck and the fridges as well? Like what does the operation itself look like?
I mean, we have a pretty simple operation. I think people think it's a lot more complicated than it actually is. A big thing is none of us get paid, right? So we're a fully volunteer organization and no one will ever get paid. I will work my ass off and I will never get paid. It's just, it allows us this flexibility where we can operate this nonprofit. And so if we have a lot of money, we're doing a lot of things. If we don't, we're taking a break. And so I think that reducing that overhead really has helped us to be able to grow in these really amazing ways. But also, we shift it to passive impact, right? So these fridges, they're connected to us, but it's not us doing that. We're not actively, doing that. So it's like this passive impact where we can take our foundation that we've built and allow other people to kind of do their own thing.
So you're a fully volunteer-led organization, right?
Yes.
And so how many volunteers do you have right now?
Well, this month I had 173 requests for people to be volunteers. Yeah, it's crazy. We have like a Google form. I did the spreadsheet. I was like, fuck. But no, so we have like 3 teams that kind of are food truck, trained. And so I would say there's about 15 volunteers that are consistently doing things. But again, when we start to add the fridges and all of these things, it's infinite, right? We have 100 people that are involved in the things that we do. We really are a community nonprofit. I mean, it seems I'm the face, right? I have to do all the talking, I love to do all the talking.
Nice save.
Yeah. But it's not ours. We don't do it ourselves, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know you have a very long list of volunteers, but for those of us who are in the room or listening online later and might be interested in supporting you or, this broader network of mutual aid that's happening, where do you send people when they come to you and they're like, I want to help, but I don't know where to start?
I mean, for us now, it's less about, giving us money. I mean, we always need money. So you can go to redsgoodvibes.com. You can check us out. But I think it's more important, especially now, bring us your ideas. Like if you want to start a free food pantry in your yard, please call me, right? I'm really approachable and I will help you do it. If I have $500, I'm going to give it to you to do it. So we really want people to follow their own ideas and reach out to us for that support. And for me to say, don't let people tell you it's that hard because we can do it together. But also cook for the fridges. Have a cook night. If it's your birthday, get your friends together and cook some chili, label it and throw it in the fridge. Do a fridge check. You can volunteer on our food trucks. We love having people out to do that. You don't need any experience. You just have to let me yell at you a little bit. But yeah, I mean, get involved, do your thing. And I think Mark said it, everybody can help. And I think when we start to really I like to say that a lot of nonprofits are egocentric, right? So it's all about what they do and it's performative and we want to take the pictures and, but I think that everybody needs to realize that it starts with those small ideas and that none of us could actually do this without the support of everybody being able to pitch in the way that they want to. Don't let me tell you how to do it. You should figure it out.
I mean, shit, I'm going to end on that note. That was perfect.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, Caitlin. And thank you so much. All right. That's all we got, kids. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you to all of our guests. That was so incredible. I personally am feeling very motivated to get out there and make some chili.
Yeah,
I don't know about
do
you.
a pantry in my yard. So
Absolutely. Contact these guys. Thank you guys for coming. Have a great night, and we'll hang out and chat for a while.
thank you.